And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. I say welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you loved it so much you wanted to come back for more. And you know what? We have more for you. This is the podcast that is about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And my guest today is an absolute rookie at being a guest. He's here for the first time he's ever been interviewed. All right. So give him some grace. And I love that. All right. And yes, he's a podcaster. You guys cracked our code. This is the place, folks, where we come together, we raise each other up, and we're all here for the greater good. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So if you're not a part of the Podcaster Nation, our private group, if you're not a part of that yet, why aren't you? Join it. It's easy. Look it up. Okay. And contact me. I'll send you an invite. We'll get you in there. If you have a podcast and you haven't been on my show yet, again, why? It's free. This guy today is first time he's ever been interviewed. He's coming on my show. All right. I don't bite. Get on the show. Let's do this. Here we go. My guest today, talking about his podcast, From the Basement. Please welcome Timothy Andrew. Timothy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I really am. It's been a wonderful Wednesday. So
Nice.
it's and hopefully after this it'll still be a wonderful Wednesday.
I hope you're not coming in with that kind of, uh, fear and anxiety.
No,
This is
no,
really
not at
simple.
all.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. So tell everybody, hey, this is our audience. Our audience is largely podcasters, but we do have a lot of people who aren't. But tell everybody, who is Timothy Andrew? What's From the Basement about? Tell us about you, brother.
Okay. Well, so the easy part of it and the easiest way to explain it and get into some nitty gritty. So about 7 years ago, I went through some health issues. Um, Basically, the cut and dry is I went through four back and neck surgeries
Oh,
that have left me with chronic pain, and I have two 4-inch rods in my neck. And that has then put me on disability. And for the longest time, it left me questioning what I'm going to do. And I struggled hard. I struggled for about 5 years trying to do that. What am I going to do? What's my life going to be towards? And about 2023, I decided, you know what? I need to encourage other men to be able to get through things like my medical situation. I've been blessed that I have a family and friends that helped me through this situation, and that encouraged me to keep on moving and figuring things out. There's things, unfortunately, I can't do anymore that I used to be able to do, and my podcast is From the Basement. And the reason I call it From the Basement is, well, two reasons. One, I actually live in my brother's basement. And two, we all have a basement. You can call it a basement, a pit, or well, that one time or another we end up crawling out of. And so I figured, I'll just call it From the Basement, because when I go out, I literally climb out of the basement every time I go out. And I figured it was kind of fitting for that situation. And so I started that mainly to try to help and encourage, other, mainly other men, but it's gone on to more than that. So that's kind of how it started and slowly developed and is still slowly developing.
nice. Nice. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, power to you. I hope that things are a little better than they were. I mean, wow, rods in the back. Ow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. That's why I can't lift my head up. So it's like I can go like this, but I'm leaning back in my chair.
Okay. Yeah, don't go doing any acrobatics on
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no.
Not in the guest chair. Okay, if you're
No, no.
hosting, that's a different story.
That's just search. Yeah.
All right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so you started the podcast. You said you didn't know
Correct.
what you were going to do with your life. Is
Yeah.
the podcast one of those things that's kind of giving you direction and meaning and
It's
purpose?
given me, yeah, exactly. It has given me purpose and something, because the biggest thing that I struggled with is feel I didn't have anything to look forward for. And I also felt I was a burden to friends and family, even though I know and I get told that, I'm not, and I understand that. But that doesn't keep your brain from kicking off and saying, and so yeah, it was a way to try to help fulfill some time and explore other avenues, and it was truly a blessing to start and do. And my first thought of doing a podcast, I looked at it sort of in a negative light. I thought, hey, well, I looked at it from a disability standpoint of a lot of places you have um, places that are set up for access for mobility devices that can go through doors, and they have ramps and other stuff, and they don't have the in between. Like I can slowly get to some place with a walk with a cane, and I go to a counter. Well, there's no chairs nearby. I need to sit down, otherwise I'm going to fall down, and you don't want me falling down. And so I was first thinking, well, maybe I'll do something on that to try to raise awareness, and with little Maggie, negative, laughter kind of stuff put in there. Hey, you really need to consider this. And even when it came to handicap parking, it's like I was amazed at how many people never, never realized or never cared that there are people that actually use those, that need those. And my brother goes to me and says, there's enough negativity in the world. Maybe you might want to consider something else. And I'm like, hmm. So it took me a little bit. I'm going to go, you know what? I figured it out. So that's where that came from. Because I was really thinking of doing something, and it's just like, I'm kind of glad I listened to my brother.
Well, so tell everybody what the podcast is about now, currently.
The mainly the podcast is basically trying to do little scripture, going over some through some scripture and trying to encourage men and others that are going through other hard times, trying to you know focus on. And I have it on Monday, and try to just don't lose that focus after you go to church and have worship, whether you go Saturday or Sunday. Keep that focus and keep it strong. And I just try to keep it short, because unfortunately, attention spans have gone downhill a little bit as well. So, but it's just trying to do something where I try to make sure that I put in some verses and sometimes some quotes, and just encourage as you go throughout the week. So it's just trying to encourage men to stay strong.
No, I love that. That's right in my wheelhouse too.
Yeah,
With some of my other projects, but I love that. I got to listen to one of your recent episodes about biblical manhood,
yeah,
and that was very good, very well said. You've got a great voice for
yeah,
podcasting. I mean, it's so
yeah.
soothing. It was just really
Thank
nice
you.
and easy. And
Yeah.
it was like, oh yeah, yeah, all right. I mean, you could be telling bedtime stories with that voice, man, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, so like what made you what brought you to that? Because you one minute you're a little negative, right? And rightly so.
Yeah.
There's a little anger in all of us about our own situation. But what made you move towards scripture and, spreading God's word and in particular to men?
So so going back to my medical situation from 2017, it was December 2017 when the first stuff started happening, to May of 2023, were uh, I would call my hiccup years. What I truly call it is, I call it my season of lament. I was just torn. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, normally I can adjust and adapt and move on, and I couldn't. I had no way of knowing what I was going to do. I was doing things now that I've never done before. I walk with a cane because my lower back surgery cut all the nerves in my lower extremity, so I can't feel most of my legs, and sometimes I fall because I don't know where my feet are landing because I can't feel them.
Mm,
And so the biggest part, and the reason I focused on men, is because one, um, we struggle as men to communicate and ask for help. And
mm,
um, and that was the biggest um, part of it too, because for me, I was broken. I had to go to my church and basically say I have nothing. Yes, my brother gave me a place to live, and I'm grateful for that. But I had no money for food or prescription or um, phone or anything. I couldn't pay my bills, and I had to go them humbly and say, "Help me." And and that was the clicking point in my mind that um, a lot of guys can't do that or won't do that. And I think it needs to be encouraged, because I think that with, especially with men walking in grace, that we are supportive of each other, and we are not there, oh well, this person, was weak because they were in a bad situation, and stuff like that, where a lot of times you get, those men that are, oh, I never have to do that. Well, but the problem is, you've never needed to do that, and that's where it kind of focused on, is the need. What would happen if you did need to go to somebody, um, not your wife if you're married, not your wife, but you as a man, go to the church and say, hey, I need help. Could you do that? And in my mind, the main answer that I got was most men probably couldn't. It would be too much of a fight between their masculinity and what they truly felt that they should be doing. And so it was truly a humbling experience to go through that. And I still learned humility every day. But that was
Sure.
the main focus, is trying to then help men who are struggling through situations. Because I used to drive I used to have a CDL. I drove over the road for about 3 years, and then I drove the local transit city bus for almost a year, and then this happened. And if I didn't have the pain, I could have gone back to work, but I lost my CDL because I couldn't pass the DOT physical. And
Right.
it's like, okay, well, what about other men? What kind of help, if somebody went through the same situation, you know, um, through needing medical help or needing retraining or stuff like that. And, we should be there as men to encourage, even if they are unwilling to ask for it, because a lot are probably not willing to ask for it. And that in my mind is the sad reality. And that's where other men should come along and try to uplift them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I I never know what kind of answer I'm going to get, brother, but that was awesome. Um,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Power to you.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a great cause. It's something that there's not enough of, and I've
Yeah.
agreed. I'm sitting here just nodding, like a
Yeah.
fan or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and not like your host. So I apologize. And
That's
I'm just
okay.
going, yep. I mean, in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
Amen. Yes,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's the struggle. I have a friend who just went through something, and alpha male, I love the guy. He's in my Wednesday morning Bible study. And and never thought of reaching out. Oh, I don't need. It's like, yeah, but you do. And so then you ponder. It's like, okay, you're a solid Christian, but yet you won't submit to the help of other men or others in the church. Then how much are you truly submitting to Christ? Because if you can't submit to another brother and say, hey, I need help, or I come to you because I need help on an earthly level, man, there's a whole different level of trying to submit to Christ. And and a lot of guys are like that. And unfortunately, it's sad because they don't.
yeah, I know that there's a fine line of leadership that
Yeah.
we all walk, especially as men, where, you're here to protect, provide for, lead your families. And when you can't, then it's a huge blow,
Yeah.
to us as men.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I know there's a line there between asking for help and feeling like you're letting everybody down by doing it. And it's
Yeah.
all, in us, it's our DNA that's the problem,
Correct.
getting in the way. But
Or not only the DNA, but it's our sinful nature,
mm,
and just having to step out of that and go, put the ego aside, all that stuff aside, and and you as a man go and ask of the church, because that's what they're there for. I
mm,
could not have made it, even with my brother helping me, letting me live here in his basement. I wouldn't have made it, and I'm blessed that I have. But I had to go to the church, and they were more than willing to help me out. And I also get it, okay, and that's, especially when you have, married, and a lot of times it's the wife or the female, and it's like, yeah, but how fair is that really to her to sort of pick up that kind of slack when it's your situation as well? And I'm not married, so but
mhm.
but I see that in other guys in the church, and that kind of bothers me too. And it's like, okay, so some of it is just truly trying to help, struggling men and men in general, realize their full potential, and that is true submission to Christ. And if that means you have to, break yourself and truly become humble, which you should be, then that's what you need to try and do.
Wow. Amazing stuff right there. Love it. Absolutely love it. I love that that's the mission that you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and thanks. You brought the whole thing full circle. So I think everybody kind of gets it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's talk about the podcast a little bit. So you've got the podcast out. You've been doing it for a minute. How long have
Yeah.
you been doing
Yeah.
the podcast?
Almost about three, I think it was May of 2023 I started, I think.
Okay.
So somewhere around there.
A few years. Yeah, you've been
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you told me, but tell everybody else, how many episodes do you have out there?
I have about 120,
About,
somewhere around there. Yeah.
yep, a little over
Yeah.
120. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you crossed, I mean, the thresholds, today are like 20, 50, 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got
Yeah.
past the 100. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
that's when things start to, click, for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and congratulations. That also means you're part of the established podcast category now in all of the rankings, which is great for you.
Yeah.
But I love that. So you've been doing this, for a minute.
Yeah.
Um, so this isn't a passing fad for you either. This is a mission that you're on.
It is, because I see it in my heart, because I see other men who should be asking for help and don't. And I just want to try to come alongside him and say, hey, you know, it's okay, but you have to sort of be the one to initiate, you know, your need. And so, yeah, and that, yeah, it's a mission.
Yeah, love it. Now, why podcasting for the mission? For getting it out. What made you choose podcasting as the medium instead of, writing a book or doing a blog or, anything else?
It was the easiest.
That's an answer. There you go.
well, 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 because of my issues, I have about a, I can't really, do anything physical. I have about an hour and a half time limit of doing something outside of the house, before my pain gets too extreme. And I'm like, well, this is something I can just do at home. I
Hmm.
can do in my brother's basement, and and it's easy to do. And so I'm like, okay, this would be something, something I can venture down. And so that's kind of the main reason. The book, it might be in the works though.
Oh, we're gonna teaser. All
Yeah.
right. So since
Yeah.
this is the first time you've been a guest, that
Yeah.
means that this is the first time you've announced anything like this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So is this something you're actively working on, or is it in the thinking process?
Kind of both. So I'm going to throw you a loop. um
Here we go.
the book I want to write is called Twice Adopted Son. So I was adopted when I was 3 months old. And
Wow.
and I was, I had issues growing up, and the struggles and stuff like that. And it took me a while, honestly, just before all this stuff help happened, that, I truly felt that I was, um, being a Christ follower rather than just, I would call it a Christian. Of, okay, I've got my hiccups, and I'm like, okay, then, I can, feel the change and see the change, and I'm actively working on it. So that's kind of how that comes about. But the beforehand is, and I'll do another quick little blurb, but my dad wrote a book before he passed away in 2020 called Twice Rescued Child. And my dad was basically a World War II Czechoslovakian war orphan. And so
Wow.
I'm kind of trying to do that in conjunction with the book he wrote, and maybe we can put it together in a set. I felt, that kind of go hand in hand. And so, yeah, it's in the thought, and I'm working on actually writing it. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
So what
yeah,
is your dad's book published and out there for
it
people?
is. Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
it
it's
is.
called Twice Rescued Child.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I had a copy. This came off because you asked me about it. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, um, I think it's Twice Rescued Child. But
And your dad's listed as the author.
yeah, yeah, Tom Graumann. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so, yeah, so it was, he was raised in Czechoslovakia, and basically at age 8 he was sent off to Scotland. And so that was one rescue, and then he later, um, was, became a Christian. He was in a obviously a Jewish family, um, growing up, the few years that he was in Czechoslovakia, and then he later, became a Christian, and then went to the mission field in the Philippines, where he met and married my mom. So that's
Nice.
another story.
Nice. All right. So Twice Adopted Son is the book that is in the
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Got it. Now, when that comes out, okay, I expect you to come here, okay, to one of my podcasts
Oh,
to
of course.
okay, to
Yeah,
name the release because I
yeah.
was
We'll
here.
we'll stay. We'll definitely stay in contact.
Let's say
Absolutely.
very first time you talked about it was here.
You got it.
So I have
You
some sort
got
of
it.
like, foundational right here to be the
Absolutely,
guy that
man.
announces it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Well, I wish you all the best with that. And frankly, I'm
Yeah,
sure you're going to nail it. And I can't wait to read
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's a great endeavor to launch and to go after. Good for you.
yeah. Yeah. It just,
Cool.
it was just, sort of the hiccup. I mean, yeah, I mean, I was a Christian from a young age, and but I basically walked the path when I felt like walking it, and I had other things along the way that were, non-Christian, and there's also struggles that made me question, truly, when I was younger, is there truly a God? Because some of the things that I saw, and I'm just like, so yeah, up until, you know recently, um, I I felt I was kind of, like I said, a Christian, whereas I'm truly now a Christ follower, where I want to follow Christ for sure. So yeah,
I hear that. Okay. All right. So podcasting it is.
yeah,
Low barrier to entry, which is great. It's why I think everybody should who have a podcast, frankly.
yeah.
If for no other reason than it's just cathartic to get on there and talk. So, but I love that. Now, when you got started, did you go out and buy a bunch of equipment and stuff, or did you start with something
I
real
did.
simple?
No, I did.
You did. You went all in. That's awesome. How'd you get started? What kind of equipment did you pick up?
I picked up all the expensive stuff that I shouldn't have afforded at the time, but I got, the one of those, now all those, fancy, the Shure SM7Bs, and then I have a Zoom, um, micro. Actually, I have it right here. The little Zoom
Oh,
micro
check it
recorder.
out.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then I have it going, and I have it run through a small Yamaha mixer. So yeah, I, I I didn't know any difference. I'm seeing all these people with all these fancy microphones, and I'm like, oh, okay, that looks good. So I spent the money before doing the research, and
At
come
least
to
you're honest
find out,
about it.
well, come to find out, you don't need a whole bunch of money. It's like,
Mm-mm.
yeah, yeah. So that was my misguiding, but it was a learning experience, and now I have a setup where I can take it and have people, come to the house, or I can take it mobile if I need. So yeah, it was, yeah, that was, yeah, it was definitely a learning experience.
Well, and
But
120 episodes later, it's all going to come in handy now because
yeah,
you've been solo episodes most of the time you've been doing this, right?
yeah, and so another thing I'm looking at possibly doing, adding on to maybe putting something in the mix is I thought about this not too long ago is maybe starting to do something maybe once a month or every other month doing something called Meet a Missionary,
Mm,
where I find missionaries that are willing to do like we're doing, just a Zoom
yeah,
podcast and talk about their mission and where they're from and what are they doing and how it goes. And where you know we get filled in at church, okay, well, this is what they're doing, but actually hearing that from someone who's doing that, I think would be a little more impactful. So i'm
neat.
I'm thinking about trying to do that, but yeah, so far it's been just me.
Okay. Now, have you done one interview yet?
I
I
have.
did. I thought you told me that you
Yep,
did.
I
It
did. I
started,
did
right?
one.
Did
Yeah,
your
I
first
did
one?
one. Yeah, I did one last Monday. I'm in the editing process of it. A guy by the name of Alex Strouk. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, yeah,
All right. Good for
yeah,
you for branching out. Looking forward to
yeah,
hearing that one when it comes
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Very, very cool. And then, of
yeah.
course, you're out podcast guesting now because you're on my show.
Yes,
So that means
correct.
that everybody's going to want you after you're on my show. All right.
Wonderful.
This show is huge. We're international at this point. It's grown like I don't know, like a meteor or something.
Yeah,
And so you can be famous now, brother. Now that you're on air, people are going to call. Hey, hey, you want to be a guest? So they want to
yeah,
hear what you have to say, man.
yeah.
So plus you're a nice guy and you have a good story. I mean, put all that
And
together.
it took me a while to realize that. Of course, we talked about humility right there a
Hmm.
little bit. Yeah, I still hadn't quite figured out that little bit. Oh no, I don't have a good story. It's like, no, it's just me. This is stuff I've been through. And it took me a bit to actually acknowledge, yeah, I guess I do have something kind of cool.
Yeah, it is a good story. And to be
Yeah,
honest,
yeah.
I'm one who believes that when God gives you a story, you have a responsibility to share it.
And I am in full
Well,
agreement. It took
awesome.
me a while, like I said, to get to that humility to say, you know what, um, it's okay to be able to do that because it is, because of grace and where I'm at and the humility I learned that yeah, I've lived it and it's time to share it. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice. All right. Well, I'm definitely gonna be putting your name out there. All right, for
yeah.
people. So you went out and you went all the way to the wall and got all your big
Yeah,
expensive stuff. I love it.
yeah.
I got the mixing board and everything. So how podcaster questions? How do you personally promote your podcast right now? What do you do to promote it and put it out there?
Um, right now I have it on YouTube, and then I have it. So I have video and I have audio, and
Hmm.
so I have everything for the audio. When I first started, I did it through an RSS feed, which would then go to all the popular ones like Apple and Spotify and iHeart and Pandora and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And then I was told um, that I need to branch out even more, and so then I was encouraged to do YouTube, and I'm like, all right, reluctant.
Mhm.
Still kind of an old soul where the social media stuff is uncomfortable, and so I started doing that. I started doing actually YouTube videos only recently, um, and I'm actually liking it. So
Yeah.
it's and that I figured, okay, well, might as well let people see who I am. And so that started, probably within the last, honestly, 6, 8 months, if that. And so that's slowly growing. And so And then I also try to do what we're doing now, just network. Try to reach out and say, hey, this is who I am. And through that, then promoting and finding other men who are willing to have me on as a guest, or vice versa, be on and just network that way. And that's, I'm starting to sort of get into that now. So that's
Nice.
kind of why I'm you're my first time being a guest as an interviewee. So it's like, okay, and this is, and that, and that's what it needs though. I need to do that. So yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
good for you.
yeah,
Good for you. Well, there's a lot of very good podcast hosts out there. So
yeah,
they're all just waiting to talk to you. So I'm sure this is going to take off for you,
yeah.
and you're going to be doing all kinds of cool stuff. So um, another podcaster question. Let me ask you, have you had a chance to monetize the podcast yet? Look into any of that kind of thing? Make some money on it?
I Nope, because I don't have, I still don't have enough listeners, and that was kind of my struggle. It's like, okay, and I still feel like I'm the little man on the totem pole, and I'm like, don't have enough followers, don't have enough, and so haven't quite gotten to that point. But I'm still working at it.
There you go. All right.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
the attitude. That's
yeah,
it right
yeah,
there. I'm
yeah,
working on it. I'll get there. Okay.
yeah,
Yes, you will.
absolutely.
And when your book's a bestseller, then it's not going to matter,
Yeah.
because you're going to kill it, which is going to be perfect. I love it. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. All right. I always ask a corny question. So it's time
Okay.
for that now. Here we go. All right. So when it comes to your podcasting and your podcast and what you do, what is it about it that you love the most?
Okay.
And what is it about it that and I know hate is a strong word. So let's just say, what is it about it that you dislike the most?
Okay. I actually love diving into the word and figuring out what I'm going to do and making sure that what I put out there is truth, and figuring out that, okay, this is something that I just need to hear. It's also something that others truly need to hear. Whether it's just a little blurb followed up with some godly quotes from, some godly men, you know, that that has truly intrigued me, and it's helped me grow, honestly. And so that's kind of what I would say I love the most is, it helps me dive into the word, you know, every week or so as I write, episodes.
The research. That's great.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's,
great.
well, because I truly want to make sure that what I say is truly biblical and it's sound. And
Nice.
I don't want, you know, and if I say something, I would accept the fact that I said something wrong if somebody called me out on it. And if it's true, then great. I'll look at it and then I'll make an edit and say, okay, I was wrong on here. But yeah, I try to make sure that everything is truly biblically sound. And so that would be the good, research of it and diving in, because that helps me dive in and grow myself as I prepare. So um the, not necessarily hate, we'll say, on that kind of end, but the the disgruntled part is how long it truly takes to get to the monetization point of
Hmm.
trying um, to get the followers, to try to get the people that listen and that kind of stuff. And that I would say would be the hardest. I mean, it's there and people will listen, um, but it takes time. So
Yes, it does. All
yeah.
right. All right. Good answers.
Yeah.
Honestly, if we were doing the Family Feud right now, top five answers on the board, those don't
Yeah.
usually make the top five. So I mean, that's unique. I like it. I
Good,
like keeping
good,
it fresh. That was
yeah,
cool. I don't think I've ever had anybody say I like the research that goes into
yeah,
my, as
yeah,
far as the best thing. But man, that's great. That
yeah,
really is.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Is there any, as you've been doing this,
yeah.
is there any time where you had like an episode that you did and then you just didn't publish it for some reason or another?
um yes and no. Let me
Yeah.
explain. I so one of my, and I mentioned one of my hiccuping points as I was going through saying I was a Christian struggled was I was an alcoholic for 6.5 years. And I struggled with putting that out there. I first put it out under addiction, and then I pulled it off. And I'm like, I didn't want to truly bear everything. I guess you could say that hey, I truly struggle. But then I realized that that's the reason I'm doing this, is so people can see that we all make mistakes and we all have problems, and that's what makes us human. But it also helps us advance in our kingdom building of, seeking first and moving past those issues. So yeah, but it's back out there. But yeah, that was probably the one of the harder ones that I'm like, I did it and I pulled it back off, and then I resubmitted it because I'm like, well, that's what I'm trying to do. How can I encourage men if I take a part of my life out there, even though it's raw, and not let them hear that I've actually struggled? So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That was a new question that I tried out because I don't think I've only asked it once or twice before, but I was like, I got a rookie on, we're going to try
yeah,
this again. One of
yeah,
my students was like, "Hey, what about this question?"
yeah,
And I was like, I'm going to try it in one of my podcasts just
yeah.
because they suggested it. So I said, hey, if the student suggested to the teacher to try it, then the teacher really should go try it.
There
So
you go.
I'm
Yeah,
like, and I had no idea where it was going to go, and
yeah,
you took it to a great place. So thank you for that
yeah. Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
you helped me and my student just right now.
yeah.
But your story just gets more and more intricate, brother. I mean, you've got a lot to share
I
with men. I mean, if I ask you
yeah.
five more questions, I bet we find out five more new things about you too.
Oh yeah. I won't deny it.
I mean, that's I think you definitely being called to share your message,
Yeah,
start
yeah,
to finish,
yeah.
brother.
And it's truly been a
So
blessing. And I, and like I said, it took me a while to realize through humility that I am blessed even with my situation.
nice.
Yeah,
Good takeaway.
yeah,
Um, okay, and that is a great segue into what is usually my last question. So as we kind of like wrap this up, it's perfect.
okay.
I like to end with this one. You've been doing this for a while. I mean, several years, 120 episodes.
Mhm.
So, what is your best piece of advice to a podcaster who's out there who just isn't quite where you are yet in terms of, episodes, production, experience, and of course would like to be?
Well, we kind of touched on this when I said disgruntled, and you kind of said, well, hate. And the biggest thing is, if it's truly something you want to do, don't give up on it, because there are people that listen, and there are people that listen for a reason. And you have something to say, whether it is one person listening or, a million, somebody's listening. And that in itself is worth doing it. Even if it takes the time to produce and edit and everything that goes in with that, um, somebody else is listening, and they're listening because you have something to say. And definitely don't give up. You know, I even like I said, even though I'm not to the point of monetization, I'm like, I see it down the road, and I'm fine with where it's at, and I just have to accept that it does take some time, and okay, and I know people listen, so yeah,
Nice, nice,
yeah,
great advice. Great
yeah,
advice, brother. Okay. Tim, from the basement.
yeah.
Fantastic podcast. I love it. Everybody go tune into that. Best way to contact you if somebody wants to reach out, ask you to be on their podcast, something like that. Is it a social media? Is it an email? What's the best way to reach you?
Um, they can do social media. You can do email Tim at fromthebasement.org.
There it is.
Yeah, yeah, pretty cut and dry. Tim at fromthebasement.org. Um,
.org.
and yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, but yeah, anybody can reach out to social media, YouTube. Everything is available, so however they want to reach out.
Awesome.
And it's just me, so I'll answer.
Sounds good. I'll put a few of those links. I know you and I are connected on Facebook, for instance,
Yeah,
so I'll make
yeah,
sure I put
yeah,
that link in there,
yeah,
and we'll make sure this is in the show notes for people, especially the
yeah,
email, in case they want to reach out to you. And of course, I'm
yeah,
going to be, suggesting you to folks. So,
yeah.
but that's great, Tim. Thank you for coming on today and
Oh, it's
uh,
been a blessing. This has
sharing
been
everything,
fun.
brother. Yeah,
Oh
I,
yeah,
I mean, you're so authentic and open, and I mean, really, I could not have
yeah.
asked for more out of a guest. So for your first opportunity being a guest, you knocked it out of the park, man.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you for being on, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Folks, this has been another unbelievable episode of the Podcaster Nation. It's the podcast that is about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And we had a very special guest today that is a podcaster. You guys need to go check it out from the basement. Folks, this is the place where we all come together and lift each other up. This is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.